Another concern that arises are concerns about law. Civil rights lawyer Harvey Silvergate has written a book called 3 Felonies a Day, showing that the U.S. criminal code has become oppressive. My question is this: what is the difference between the U.S. law code and common law of the Republic of Texas? Chief Justice Cannon.
To go into understanding law, first of all, you have to go back to a position where basically law began. And it's a difficult one, as we say, as far as education and understanding these positions, because law is a science. Being that it's a science, you have to sit and equivalently put a hypothesis, theory, and such together. The difference being is within that Constitution. Our Constitution limits, it restricts, it binds government. Now we know that under our Constitution, as we should have, is 3 branches of government. And those branches of government should always remain separate. The issue today is when we see as far as the federal rules and dealing with common law has its position. And it does have a position, and it's well thought, it's well applied. But without the understanding of the full capacity of common law, you'll find its shortfalls. That's the reason over the periods of time when we look at the Supreme Courts, and especially the Supreme Court of the U.S. from the beginning and its transition, you understand why Chief Justice Story said that he preferred civil law. You may have Chief Justice Marshall who preferred a certain venue. But my preference is equity, and I don't have time to go into all these issues. But what I want to do is, when you have to understand, because everyone's concern is over this, what we have to find is the fault, or when and how it got broken. And that's a very difficult point, except when you do and you educate yourself and you look beyond what the norm is as far as that may be required in receiving a BA or PhD in a regular university. What you find, or what I have found, is that there's an issue that began as what hasn't been exposed and brought up to now, is the issue of what's considered state of exceptions. Now, there's multiple writers on that position as far as states of exceptions. Under states of exception, we understand what emergency war power does. And it's accepted around the world, and an understanding, because as the chaplain referred to earlier, you go back to the Roman time, you go back to other periods of time. What happens under this state of exception? That Constitution becomes suspended. When that Constitution becomes suspended, where does the authority or the enforcement then fall upon? What branch of government does it then turn to? And in that, you'll understand that what it does is it falls to the executive. And as was brought up about these issues of bureaucracy, you understand the administrative. You understand that under that state of exception, because we've even posted upon our website an issue of dealing with those emergency war powers that were basically, some understand, as far as back in 1933 with Roosevelt. Under the state of exceptions, what you have, and what's termed, and some may be offended by it, is what you have is what's called a constitutional dictator. Now, that's hard to grasp, but being that he's a constitutional dictator is because what he does is under that Constitution, because it enumerated that authority to that one branch under the state of exceptions or war power. And it's understood, because it's been debated from centuries back, if you have a chaotic situation, in other words, it's just total chaos, rather than going through the congressional system of resolving this, because of either different opinions, different attitudes, different ideologies, difference this, difference that, debate. What you have then is that authority as what created basically Caesar, or the Führer, or these other examples that fall through, is that they claim that Constitution clause of the emergency powers. Thereby, under that constitutional power, this administration now creates law itself. And I don't know, because rather than going into an extended time, that's the reason I hope that this forum extends beyond this into another sitting so that we can get this across to the people. But basically what you have is, under that, you no longer have three branches of government because of that suspension. And that suspension has been going on since 1933. Now, they'll come up and they'll tell you that they removed the war powers or they moved the state of exception. But let me answer with another question. What happened after the trade towers went down? Everyone sits and looks at the issue of those World Trade Center collapsing and the explosion in the planes and the conspiracies and this implosions and all these sort of things, but you did not focus on what came out of it. What came out of it was legislation that stripped more of your God-given rights, your inalienable rights, that these people that were in position were supposed to be guardians of. And rather than being a guardian of your rights, they became enforcers of policy, because that's what it is. It falls under that executive branch, which then he creates policy that he thinks ensures and continues the running of the country. That's the reason you today have what we look at, and other authors besides me will look at and tell you that you have a militarization of the police force. Why do you have a militarization of a police force? Because of the external threat. But if that external threat is there, that we even in our own historical understanding have seen those threats and degradations all the way back to the beginning, and the people of Texas handled it much better on that area without removing or attaching or suspending your rights, which were guaranteed and declared, as in we understand and we believe, as to guarantee that, not just for ourselves, but for our children. Because most of you, as without research and study, do not understand what's called the court called FISA, F-I-S-A. It's a secret court. Being that there's one secret court, which is no secret anymore, are there other courts considered on the same level playing ground as FISA? That's what you need to find out. Because in the suspension, that's the one guarantee that we love and we believe in and that we are adamant about. The rights of the people. And that protection, that guardianship. And that there's no reason in the world, because even when we look at the international realm, and there's multiple human rights that have been quoted and issued and stuff like that, and we look at that and we know that there are certain human rights that cannot be abrogated even under the state of exception or under state of war or under states of this and that. But we also understand that there's a difficulty in understanding, because we've looked at those conventions, which are treaties, and even under the Convention of CERD, C-E-R-D, the Convention on the Elimination of All Racial Discrimination. And we look at it because our high school behavioral modification tells us that his skin's darkening because that's racial discrimination. Well, I'm here to let you know those definitions are much broader. And that's the effects that we in the Republic of Texas have felt under this position, because even those states that are within that union were obligated, because the U.S. signed on to that treaty convention long time back. Yet, when those of the human rights position have called in and asked the governors how they're enforcing such a convention, they say, we don't know nothing about it. Now, that obligation was there, and it's not just an issue of color, race, such and so. It could be nationality. It could be this, could be that, and that's the understanding that we have. Because when you, and I try to curb my terms so not to expose too much at one time, because we need to extend this so that you can have a better understanding rather than just grasping pieces and pieces and then running with it and thinking that you have the answer. No, it's a lot more complex. But we, the Republic of Texas, are a people. We are a people. And when that obligation by the U.S. is infringed upon us, where do we go? Do we go to the state level? Do we go to the Supreme Court? Do we go to appellate court? Do we go to a circuit court? Where do we go to? Where we go is those international tribunals that have been established, and those obligations are there upon the U.S. and in the upper echelon. They know. That's the reason when you understand this and understand these principles that all tie together, then it gives you the greater, because if this man, if his hair's falling out, do I say it's because of this? No, you have to analyze that. And as a good doctor and as science is within law and that common law and all these other positions that we speak of as far as admiralty and equity, in equity both parties come in with clean hands. We understand that. And we also understand that if we're to operate as a nation, a representative of people, then we have to understand all those aspects that tie it in together, and we analyze it and we look at it and we say that since you raided the Republic of Texas on Valentine's Day, is that a violation? Well, some may say, well, that's an infringement of this and that and so forth. But going to that, where do we go? Who are we? Who did the Milbanks tribe go to? Who did the Shoshone go to? Who did the Filipinos go to? Who did the Hawaiians go to? Who are that? But why are they going there? For heaven's sakes, why are you going there? Because the world has changed. I didn't change it. But I also know that in this, when you become fearful of something that you don't know, you need to find out what it is so you ain't scared of the dark. And I understand that is position as far as that international law points go. People, the UN, international law. I'm scared to death. But that's not the point. The point is that you're an educated people and you're proud people, and you understand that they should have never taught you to read. Right. By doing so, it expands, and we leave that to our children and our children's children, an inheritance that was left to us by the covenant that ran with the land known as Texas. So don't be confused when you say common law, you say federal rules, you say this, you say it's become chaos. And understanding today, the prominent publicists and jurists today will explain to you what a failed state is. Being that we have awoken. We're awake. We don't have all the answers. We don't have all the energy. We don't have all the qualifications. That's the reason we appeal to you through this system, because you're the people. People, when I talk to them, and I've been through them in past, as far as even out on the road or stop at the store and have a cup of coffee, they wish somebody would do something. I wish somebody would do something. They don't do anything. They just wish somebody would. We're here to tell you, people of Texas, we're trying to do something for you, for your future. Help us. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Justice.